Let's start with the session today. So today we are looking at a very interesting session on D2C business side of it, right? It's a very interesting phenomenon for us because for India, micro entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in itself has been the driving force for over 2000 years, right? That's 2 millennia that we've always been micro entrepreneurs, and we've been building the country in that way. While we see the Western world uh, take new interest in that, and that's how we are today looking at Indian aspect as well on how do we really build something much more larger for a country like us, which is going across the spectrum of the country, different regions, different philosophies, different languages, and all this creates a different sort of challenge for a new entrepreneur who's trying to build something on the D2C side. And when we talk about this, we thought today we'll look at it from the lens of a entrepreneur who's been there, done that, and has had multiple success stories on that front. He's none other than Mr. Arjun Vaidya. He comes from a very veneered family of Dr. Vaidyas. His family has been into Ayurvedic medicine, medication, and drugs. And this is a new gen entrepreneur who's built a completely new vertical of business. Ayurveda, while has a lot of acceptance in the country, but also has its own level of skepticism when it comes to the D2C business, right, direct to consumer. So this is where Arjun has cracked the code for the country, and one of the first exits in the D2C business came from Arjun. Let me give you a bit of background about Arjun and his journey to the entrepreneurial world, right? So Arjun has done his bachelor's with honors from Brown University in US. He went on to work with the private equity capital of LVMH, which is one of the world-renowned luxury consumer goods house. The entity was called as L Capital. He worked there for a few years, and then he took a entrepreneurial stint with his own family business. He said, we've had that background. Why don't we get that Ayurveda to a larger set of audience in the country? But mind you, this is 2016, right? Startup in itself in India was very new, I would say. I did my own early D2C venture. D2C was not even a term then. I'm talking about 2012, 2013. We used to call it as e-commerce, and we tried to build a brand. So I've been there, burned through with that journey. So I have the other side of the story, which is the failure story that I could probably share some anecdotes. But Arjun has, on the other end, has built a beautiful, successful business, and he's also had an exit with that business, right? Arjun being so energetic, he doesn't stop there. He goes on to create a whole momentum around D2C business. He runs today. He runs V3 Funds, which is backed by Berlin Invest, which is one of the top consumer goods CPG category fund, venture capital fund. And beyond that, he's again, like I said, he's so energetic. He doesn't want to cap it out in Mumbai. He's running multiple sessions, multiple workshops, multiple courses for uh, early stage, idea stage founders who want to really delve deeper into this business. And that's how Arjun has been creating his own legacy for beyond Ayurveda, a D2C legacy for himself. And we're so glad to have you here, Arjun. Thank you so much for taking time out on Festival Day. I don't know if we're not able to hear you.
Uh, Arjun, try yourself to unmute once again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. I think you guys are muting me again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. I got a mic so that you can hear me even more clearly. So I have a mic on me now, so there'll be no audio issues, I promise.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Arjun, for taking time out and joining us. We'd love to hear a bit more. I give you an outside-in perspective about your journey. So what we want to do is in today's session, we'll keep it in a very different kind of a workshop mode, or where we want to really look at India's D2C business through your own journey, right? We'll look at it from that lens, and our audience includes people who want to be entrepreneurs, who already are building something, and we also have people in the academia and innovation ecosystem who are supporting the early stage entrepreneurs. So all of us want to get those insights from the lens view of how Arjun built that whole business and what are the very tricky spots that one as a founder can get in and how does he get out. So we look at it from that lens and look at on building better entrepreneurs for the country. Right.
Absolutely no. Happy to discuss this important topic. I think discussing the D2C wave and omni-channel as well as digital retail is crucial in the environment we live in today. Every business that is even a traditional business is thinking of some way to leverage the new digital economy, especially post-COVID. So happy to dive deeper. Santosh, if you'd like, I can maybe start with sharing a little bit more about my journey and then we can go into questions, however you prefer this.
Sure, sure. Please go ahead and share a brief about your journey, and then I will go deeper into each of those segments of your journey.
Got it. So, look, I think my journey with my business starts way back before I even started the business, right? My family's been in Ayurveda for 150 years. My last name Vaidya means Ayurvedic doctor. And so the legacy of our business was not a business. It was an Ayurvedic clinic that my great grandfather ran. He moved from Morbi in Gujarat to Bombay in 1923, set up a small Ayurvedic clinic. There's another story behind how he set that up, but just in the interest of time, I'll skip that story. And so he set up this clinic, and my dada, as was customary at the time, um, did what his dad did, went to medical school, and then joined his father, eventually took over his father's practice. In the 80s and 90s, my dada became one of India's most successful Ayurvedic doctors. He saw 350 plus patients a day in that one clinic. He had 12,000 patients on a monthly basis trying to buy a post in that one clinic. Post was the e-commerce of that time in the 80s and 90s. But he wasn't a businessman. He didn't care for sales, distribution, marketing, strategy. He wasn't excited by these things, right? And so uh, he continued to run his clinic. But he ran his clinic with a service mindset, which was consultation was always free in this clinic. If you wanted a product, um, and you wanted to buy a product, you could pay for the product. But the consultation with the doctor was free, so uh, it didn't prevent people based on income to come to the clinic, right? And that was the main objective and goal really there. I think after my dada, like after he started scaling his clinic, my dad graduated from college. And when my dad graduated from college, he was a commerce graduate. And so he decided that there is an opportunity to take what my dada had in his clinic and take it instead of to the thousands of people that he was catering to millions of people, right? And so was there a possibility to build a consumer brand out of these formulations and these products? And so they went ahead and did this journey in the 80s, late 80s. They did a TV commercial as well. And my dada lost money for the first time in his life. Doctors, lawyers, CAs don't lose money. They make more or less every year. And so my dada was shocked. He never lost money. And so he told my dad, I'm not interested in business. If you want to continue this business thing, you do it on your own in some other business, or you come and work in my clinic. And so eventually my dad had no interest in running a clinic. He wasn't a doctor. And so he went ahead and sort of set up his own business in the jewelry and watch space. And he's been doing that for the last 40 years. But there was always that conversation in our family that Ayurveda is our family legacy. We have to do something with it. I grew up with juvenile bronchitis. I suffered from asthma at age 2. And I grew up with pumps, nebulizers, inhalers, steroids. I was the only kid who wasn't allowed Coke, Limca, Fanta, Sprite while all my friends were having it. And that prevented me from having a normal childhood. I think what was worse for me was I couldn't play cricket or football. While all my friends played cricket or football, there was too much dust on the cricket field. And so my dada moved me off the cricket field when I was 7 years old. Um, I got an Ayurvedic treatment very early on. And as I got on this treatment, my uh, grandfather realized that I needed to get past this asthma to get my childhood back. 14, 15 years of treatment later, I was cured. At age 15 or 16, I started playing cricket again. I became captain of my school cricket team. It wasn't a great team, but it was a big moment for me in life. And Ayurveda had allowed me to get past this. And so eventually I decided that this legacy meant more to me than just family legacy. Ayurveda meant more to me. It gave me something back. And so I promised my dada I'll do something with this legacy. I transcribed our family formulations from scriptures to the computer, and started spending a lot of time with my dada. I went to the US for my undergrad when I was 17 and a half in 2009. I went to a place called Brown University, and there I saw something very unique. My Dutch friend was teaching me yoga. it was amazing that yoga was global, but the patriot in me, and I wear this band with the Indian flag on my hand. I've been wearing it for the last 13 years. The patriot in me started thinking Indian companies have nothing to do with the global proliferation of yoga. And so that's something that I wanted to change. Right? As I started thinking about this, and as I started sort of uh, assuming there was this opportunity, I spent a lot of time seeing all this natural and organic products revolution in the US. I spent a lot of time understanding this business called Lululemon. And it blew my mind that on Indian yoga, an American company built a $8 billion business. Right. And so I called my dada from campus and I said, hey, it's amazing that yoga is global, but it's not so amazing that we have nothing to do with it. The same can't happen with Ayurveda. And unlike most of my friends, I moved straight back to India after my undergrad in 2013. At that time, 80 to 90% of my friends were staying in the US or the UK where they studied, but I came straight back because I knew that this is where the opportunity is. But also, if you stay too far away from India, by the time you come back 10 years later, you come back with an NRI mindset, right? And it's tough to get your mind back into the game in India. So I came straight back. I worked in private equity and finance, as you mentioned, for 3 years, looking at the Indian consumer sector, investing in consumer brands like Fab India, PVR, Genesis Luxury. At the time, I also saw some changes in the Indian consumption story. I saw the obsession with imported products go away. I grew up in a country where at age 11, I was gifted a Japanese electronic sharpener for my birthday from a store that only sold imported products. Now that has changed, right? Fab Indias of the world proved that Indian consumers wanted quintessentially Indian products. I think from there was also a very interesting insight on government changed, Ministry of Ayush was created, and hundreds of thousands of consumers became interested in Ayurveda again. The Patanjali revolution was happening. So Ayurveda was undergoing a renaissance, and I was the youngest member of my team. And so they had said, hey, this thing called e-commerce seems to be happening. There are companies like Mintra. Why don't you go study them and explore an investment in them? And with that, I got to spend time on Mintra, Jabong, Pepperfry, Bluestone, and Zivame in 2014-15. And I realized e-commerce was here to stay. And when I realized that, I was having these thoughts in my mind that I got to do something with this family legacy. And unfortunately, my dada passed. And so I remember the promise I made him. I quit my job in 2016 and started this company called Dr. Vaidya's. The idea was to take the ancient science of Ayurveda and repackage and rebrand to appeal to modern consumers, right? With that, at 24 and a half, I just started this company. I went into offline distribution. I failed miserably with offline distribution because I didn't realize that I was billing to distributors.
So you started as an offline entity, not an e-commerce business.
Yeah, Dr. Vaidya started in 2016 October. At that time, D2C was not even a term. And so we went into offline distribution in Bombay with 3 products. And we had a big launch event and we signed up 6 distributors and we had a 22-person sales team offline. And I didn't realize that when I made this 10 lakh rupees of invoices in Jan 2017 to distributors, I would only get paid if my product sells. And none of my products sold. And so I got...
sorry to cut in. Who were you distributing these? Are these to the medical outlets, the chemists of the country?
There were 3 types of outlets. There were pharmacies. There were pharmacies plus, like pharmacies which also had grocery. And then there were Ayurvedic stores. Ayurveda still has Ayurvedic pharmacies. So these were the 3 types of stores that we were selling to. But I think at that time with Dabur, Imami, Patanjali, Baidyanath, Zandu, Himalaya, Sandu, all of these brands, Dr. Vaidya's didn't have enough marketing budget, didn't have enough customers, didn't have enough understanding of the offline market. And so we failed miserably. When I went 3 months later to collect the money from the distributors, I got 1 lakh back in cash and 9 lakhs back in product returns. And so I was running this sales team, which cost me 4 lakhs a month. And in my head, I was building a business, but really there was no sales happening. Right? And there are most times in business where as an entrepreneur, you have grit and resilience and you fight. But there are sometimes when you say, this is just not possible, right? And I reached that moment where I said, I will not be able to do offline. There are people who will be able to succeed in offline Ayurveda, but not me, right? And so I think at that moment, I took a hard decision to shut down my offline business completely. I found those 22 sales reps new jobs and I let them go. and I stopped offline.
If I may ask you, right, is that still a challenge today to do? I mean, do you see that as a challenge even today in the market, that to build an offline business is a very difficult, tricky business?
It is a different kind of business, Santosh, because in offline, there is a large fixed cost. The
Mm.
fixed cost is you cannot sell without marketing and you
Mm.
can't sell without a sales team. So day zero offline would be harder than day zero online. Day 100 offline and day 100 online would start looking the same, right? They're both challenging businesses. So at that
So
time when
is
I shut,
capital a mode? Is capital a mode then for an offline business? If you have enough capital, can you throw money at solving this problem for a business,
you
for someone
can't
starting?
throw money at solving any problem, uh, because you have to have a good product, you have to have good product market fit, a good pricing, a good sales team, a good scheme structure, and a good reason for the retailer to sell your product. So it's not as easy as throwing money at a problem, but you
Mm.
need some money. You need
Mm.
some money. It's not like I didn't have money, by the way. I was fortunate to be seed invested by my dad with 3 crore rupees. 3 crore rupees is in no way a small amount of money. It's a decent amount
Mm.
of money. But I was not able to figure it out.
Mm.
I didn't know how to do offline. I didn't know how the trade worked. And I didn't have enough money to market. Or even if I was marketing, I was making the mistake of doing social media posts and showing it to my retailers who were laughing at me saying, I don't care about this. But I didn't read the
Mm.
writing on the wall,
Mm.
honestly. And so we shut the offline business without an option of what to do next. I didn't, online naturally, it didn't naturally come to me, right? Then I uh, was dating a girl who was in the founding team at Nykaa. She had worked at Goldman Sachs in the UK and then was in the founding team at Nykaa. And she said, Hey Arjun, if this offline thing isn't working, why don't you try online? I said, Look, I don't know much about online other than some companies I've studied, but she knew online. And so I convinced her to join the business.
Mm.
She then became my fiance, now my wife and the mother to our baby. But my parents and her parents only allowed her to join the business after we got engaged. So summer of 2017, we got engaged. Trisha joined the business. And that's when the second leg of Dr. Vaidya started, which was the online business. Online story of Dr. Vaidya's, we can dig deeper with your questions, but scale the business from 0 to 5,000 orders a day in
Mm.
3.5 years or 4 years. Got 80 products launched eventually. Was the largest Ayurveda website in the country by far. We offered
Mm.
something unique to the customers. I told you earlier, we had a free online consultation.
Mm.
That same online consultation, we free offline consultation in the clinic. We offered that same consultation online. And so customers in Muzaffarnagar, Anantnag and Trichy never had access to high quality Ayurvedic doctors and care at the touch of their fingertips. And Dr. Vaidya's gave them that. Dr. Vaidya's also got, and the proudest thing of Dr. Vaidya's was not funding, was not capital, was not any of that. It was getting Ayurveda to 16,500 pin codes in our country. From our website, we dispatch orders to 65% of India's pin codes in less
That's
than
massive.
in less than 5 years. That was really the proud moment of Dr. Vaidya's. As its public information, RP Sanjeev Goenka Group invested in our business in June of 2019. 2 years later, they bought the business completely. And we had an amazing journey. We scaled from 60 team members to 150 team members, put Ayurveda D2C on the map and had a lovely journey. And yeah, since then, I mean, I obviously exited the business in the summer of 21, thought what to do next. At that age, I definitely couldn't retire at 29. And so I had to figure out what was ahead of me. Tried to move to Europe for 6 months, go on that typical go and travel and backpack and figure out your calling in life. Second wave of COVID hit, so I was not able to travel. And so started giving 12 hours in my calendar every week to D2C founders. That led to the creation of a program, which I teach now. It's a D2C
Mhm.
sort of mentorship program, 12-week program, 8 to 12-week program. Finished our 12th cohort now as we speak. So more than 1,000 founders, 60 have been on Shark Tank. Many of them have been funded. And then
And these are
also,
hybrid. Are these hybrid programs that you're
yeah,
doing?
it's mostly online. The graduation is done offline. So it increases the accessibility for people.
Mm.
And then we also started investing money in some entrepreneurs. That's led to 150 angel investments now across spaces. And then from there, also started thinking about the next leg for me. And the next leg for me was I enjoyed investing and enjoyed empowering founders. So can I institutionalize this? And I partnered with a large Belgian private equity fund called Volinvest to launch a VC business in India called V3 Ventures. We've now made 13 investments across the consumer space. Some companies that you guys may know: Cuckoo FM, Go Zero Ice Cream, Dill Foods, Ogao, Deconstruct, Cream Castle, Salad Days. So some very exciting companies and some more to
And,
come along the way.
and at what stage do you generally come in? Angel investment we all get, but as a fund?
Seed stage, which is like northwards of 50 lakhs a month in scale, to Series A. So
Mm.
any company in consumer from 50 lakhs a month to about 8 crores a month is our sweet spot.
And what ticket size do you generally
We do
invest
5 to 35 crores.
Okay. That's roughly about over 500,000 to about 5 million.
I specifically say crores because I don't
Mhm.
like the fact that in India we still talk about our funding rounds in millions of
Mhm.
dollars.
Noted. Perfect. That's helpful. So let's break down each part of your journey. I'd love to understand more about your D2C journey. Because for our audience, it's also gives a barometer of evaluating different matrices, and also to look at how the Indian landscape has changed today, right, from the consumer preference. Because for me, when I look back, like you correctly pointed out, the country has gone through a metamorphosis. There has been a larger push on the startup ecosystem. There has been larger consumer shift in accepting newer brands, which in my lifetime I never expected that to happen. Right? Because for us, we were always wanted to have a larger brand. That's what we were fed in as a mindset. Only those which came in the TV commercials is where you would see them as tried and tested product. And but today there's a massive shift happening where we have the millennials and the Gen Zs driving towards very new brands. They want to keep aside access to something that's not been tried, and they want to try the same product which their parents have tried. There's a seeming shift there. But that said, Ayurveda has a very different connotation altogether because it's Indian origin. But again, when it comes to a medicinal product, there's always a question about the certifications, the health impact that may cause, any negative downside to that, all of those. So let's talk about from your point of view when you started this. Did you get any certification done? How are the products being, positioned as an Indian product at the same time for a very new consumer out there?
So first, I will say that you brought up an interesting theme, right? And that theme is what we like to call in the consumer space as not your parents' brand. So like my parents use Bata. I don't want to use Bata. I want to use Comet. My parents use Skybags and American Tourister. I want to use Assembly or Mokobara. My parents bought Alan Solly and Van Heusen. I want to buy Snitch. And so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, right? And so in Ayurveda, the theme was my parents used Dabur, Himalaya, Zandu, Baidyanath. I don't want to use that anymore. If I dig deeper, what's the insight that comes out of it? Ayurveda was perceived as boring, old style, poorly packaged. It didn't have to be. Why did no one make Ayurveda cool or appealing? When we came up with the idea initially, people said that's like, it doesn't need to be cool. Like Ayurveda is boring only. But it needed to be cool because yoga was made cool, right? And so that's the insight that we took. The consumer insight that we took is ancient Ayurveda, ancient Ayurveda needs to be made new age
Mhm.
in terms of packaging, communication, branding, and the way you talk to a customer. My my Gujarati teacher, and I'm Gujarati, but I didn't speak so well. And so when I started the business, all my suppliers were Gujarati. So I used to take Gujarati class. My Gujarati teacher knew that Shikakai, Amla, and Bringraj was the main components of an Ayurvedic hair oil or shampoo without me telling her. But the generation after does not know that at all. And so the gap needed to be bridged. And that's what we tried to do through the new age products, communication, online strategy, etc.
Wonderful. So there's this theory, but how do you put that into practice now? How do you really position out there when you look at D2C? Is it all about going through a lot of social media burn through the metas of the world? And this is a funny saying that we say that. So uh, a lot of startups in the world are essentially feeding money to the platforms like Google and Meta. So where do you really start drawing out those matrices that is my business really doing the right kind of an ROI? Because your advertising on social media may seem cheaper to start with, but your output is not going to be immediate, right? I mean, you look at the LTVs and the CACs. So maybe let's talk about your CAC in that sense, right? What was your customer acquisition cost when you started the D2C one?
Yeah, look, I think that it's a good question and a sort of very interesting question. I'll give you an example, right? Chawanprash market in India has been stuck at 800 to 1,000 crores for like 15 years.
Mm.
But there are more kids in India every year, right? Our population is definitely growing.
Absolutely.
And so what is that saying to you? That's saying that a lot of kids are saying no to Chawanprash. But Chawanprash is good for you. It's been around for 2,000 plus years. So what can we do to make Chawanprash appealing and accessible to modern consumers? We had a super concentrate extract of Chawanprash that we used to sell in a capsule called HerboFit. Of course, you can't give a capsule to a 5-year-old kid, at least not on a daily basis. So we took that super concentrate extract and put it in a toffee and launched Chakash, the world's first Chawanprash in toffee form. That thinking of saying, hey, we know that this is good, but maybe it's not appealing to you today. How can we create a format that makes it appealing to you is the thought process behind what we ended up doing.
Brilliant. Good. Now, so tell us a bit more about numbers. You said you're covering over 65% of the country. Let's talk about your SKUs, your uh, uh, retention rate in terms of customers coming back, because it's in this business, right? It's not just about getting someone to use your product once. It's about the retention and the repeat customers, right? What numbers were there, and what are the metrics that you looked at?
Yeah, look, I think Ayurveda is a repeat friendly business, right? Because what was interesting was that we tried to sell 6 to 9 month dosages, but customers bought only 1 to 3 months at a time. And so it was our job to get customers to repeat. Now, when it was our job to get customers to repeat, uh, we had to focus on our website because on Amazon and Flipkart and Farmeasy and NetMeds, we never got data of our users, right? So we were a D2C brand even at the end. We were 65-70% on our website, which was pretty big sales. Like 5 crore a month on one website, 6 crore a month on one website was quite large. What did we do to get these customers back? And I think it was more than 70% of our customers ordered a second time. We had a large retention funnel, a WhatsApp team, an email team, an SMS team, a push notifications team, and a calling team. We had a 32% retention and customer care team in a 100 crore scale company. Right? We ran a proper call center internally because we realized that retention and nurturing a user is one crucial for Ayurveda, but two, that's the only way you can make money in D2C, right? If you think about the unit economics of a D2C business, there's a CAC or a customer acquisition cost or a marketing cost that you pay to Facebook and Google for the first time when you get the user. But the second and third time, you're only paying a marginal cost of WhatsApp.
So what was your retention rate?
More than 70% of the customers placed an order second time.
Oh, brilliant.
But I will say that that's higher than most categories because Ayurveda is retention friendly.
Got it. And did you also go around creating awareness on ground through other BTL below the line?
No.
Okay, it's just purely.
We thought online was powerful enough and we knew how to do that. I don't discount or doubt that offline is good, but we thought online was powerful enough.
Now, these were early days, right? So you started in 2017. By when did you start seeing the business thriving?
Somewhere around the end of 2018, we started doing 50 orders a day and 30,000 rupees a day of sales on our website without additional effort. Product market fit for me in a D2C business is when you have a guaranteed amount of business plus minus 20%, that if you sleep tonight and you don't wake up tomorrow, you'll get that business.
And that's about 18 months of your time in the venture now?
A little more than that. Be 2.5 years in. 2 years in. 2 years in.
Right. So let's imagine someone starting a new D2C business today. What are the things that he or she has to look at in terms of the timeline of their business? We also have something called as founder fatigue. So I'm trying to place it in that key. When do I say that I've reached a product market fit?
Yeah, I had founder fatigue a lot, but today it won't take you 1 year or 2 years to establish product market fit. I didn't know anything at the time. The knowledge wasn't there, like a warehouse, you have to envision it yourself, cash on delivery, what's the return rate, nobody knew. No one is having these conversations, right? Today it's all available and public, all of these conversations. So I think uh, that was new. So I would say that 2 years should be 1 year now in terms of establishing product market fit. What should you look for? You should look for sales velocity on one channel, could be a website, could be marketplaces. You should look for acquiring customers at a customer acquisition cost that allows you to break even or make a little money for your first order. You should deeply look at your retention metrics, and you should deeply look at customer feedback. What are they saying about your products?
Very interesting point about the customer
And the
feedback.
last thing I will say on customer feedback, it seems like I said something very general. No. In an online business, you have names, phone numbers, email addresses, and products the customer has bought. So you can literally pick up the phone and talk to that customer, which you can't do in an offline retail store as a brand, right? Because as a brand in offline retail store, your product goes from brand to super stockist to distributor, retailer to end customer. There are 3 to 4 layers in between.
Very true. Very true. So I want to give an anecdote of my own journey when I started my silver jewelry business in 2012-13. So we started selling in our retail outlet. We also did that in through our e-commerce portal. Plus, we went horizontal with Amazon and Flipkart. The customer feedback is what literally told me that I'm not going to make money in this business because the returns were about 18% of my business. Right, there was returns coming in because consumers or customers would order on a Friday for a function or a catch up on the weekend. Then they would return my jewelry, and get a refund on Monday or Tuesday. Right. So literally, when we spoke to the customer, they said, you know what, I didn't want to buy the product. I always wanted to test it out. I wanted to use it for a function or a particular occasion and sell it back. Right. Very interesting point about customer feedback. But in but when you look at creating the first level of trust with the customer, Arjun, how does one create that? And while my product from as a founder's perspective is probably solid, I have done enough work on building a good product, good packaging, and I've also tested that. I have got that certification, blah blah blah. But how do I really ensure that the customer trusts the brand in the way that they will become my ambassadors? How do you create that shift in customer becoming an ambassador?
I think finally, we'll deliver a high quality experience. Luckily, in health, if you do deliver high quality experience, you're curing or ridding that person of an ailment. And ridding that
Mhm.
person of an ailment is very powerful. It takes long to convince these users. But once you have 1,000 customers who are convinced, that word of mouth really works. So health businesses take longer to scale,
Mhm.
take more time to scale. But once they do scale, they offer something special.
Let's switch over to a non-health business. Today, if someone wants to do a D2C, let's take the example of Mokobara versus, let's say, Skybags, right? For general users, it might be that I'm using a suitcase to travel from one place to another. I just want it to be sturdy. I want it to be looking decent enough, uh, and the price point has to be for an Indian consumer. It has to be with a value consciousness. You look at a price-sensitive market, right? But how does one starting new create that trust, create that wow factor? Is it just a design look that is changing the world today?
Look, I think it's a mix of things, right? It's design and look, it's functionality, it's feeling. So design and look is okay. It's looking sexier than Skybags. Functionality is it has a mobile phone holder and a charging point and the right compartmentalization, the right pockets in the bag, etc. All of that. And then feeling is I feel a sense of pride, excitement, or belonging when I buy the brand. A mix of these things has allowed Mokobara, which is a completely China sourced product, which anybody else can do as well, right? To be able to establish a brand with so much love.
And there, how big is the role of the influencer marketing angle there?
One of the things, but today I think influencer marketing in my generation was a little bit more important. Now that too many influencers and customers see through it, so authenticity has come into marketing, right? Like my friend Raj Shamani said a very interesting thing. He said, you trust someone you know, then you trust someone you kind of know and follow, then you trust a macro influencer, and then you trust a celebrity. So authentic distribution and content is working much more than influencer marketing today.
Right. So in your case, what are the different channels of marketing that you use? And obviously Facebook and Google Beamer.
We also use a lot of community marketing. We created
Mm-hmm.
a community of 25,000 people called Daily Ayurvedic Tips. We used to send one tip on Ayurveda to an opt-in WhatsApp community. 6 out of the 7 tips weekly were non-branded, one was branded. But all of these people had decided or wanted or opted in to join these WhatsApp groups. And so every day they would see one tip of Ayurveda on their phone in a WhatsApp group. But the DP of that WhatsApp group was my brand's logo. And so subliminally every day they are seeing my brand's logo.
So content is still the king. And now for someone new today, what are the tips and tricks in terms of the content? Because again, content is widely available, and our ability to consume is also skewed to have shorter capsules of content. So what are the tips that someone starting new would get from you?
I think the first thing I would say is own your own distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I have 210,000 followers on Instagram, right? If you do a collab post with me, and I see a lot of brands just doing collab post after collab post after collab post, right? You're borrowing my audience for that one post. 0.1% of my audience will probably follow your page. The next post, they would have forgotten that I ever even collaborated with you. And so owning your own distribution and audience is absolutely crucial.
Brilliant. So essentially, if I were to build something, I need to ensure that I have a very solid product.
Otherwise, you're completely dependent on Facebook and Google of the world, right?
But that sort of burns and it's good to start off, but is it the right way? I mean, or can I just build a business on just Facebook ads today and scale it up to a large number?
You can, but you'll face the law of diminishing marginal utility, whereas your ROAS will keep coming down and you'll become dependent and in a vicious cycle with Facebook. That's a problem, which is why I tell people to find something else.
Great. So Arjun, let's talk about the diversity of the audience right now. In terms of India, right, we have a metro living person at a young age has a very different lookout for the future. The aspirations are different vis-a-vis someone at the tier 2, tier 3. For you as a brand, how did you distinguish your marketing for each of these different categories of TGs?
A very interesting question, actually. So we thought we would be a tier 1 focused urban minimalistic premium brand. Eventually, when I started picking up the phone and I picked up the first 1,000 calls that came into Dr. Vaidya's, I realized none of my customers speak English, or 80% of my customers don't speak English.
Wow.
And my customers are 82% outside top 10 cities. So we became a regional language, vernacular focused Hindi, English kind of brand. That's what our customers said. It's a great part of online, right? You get this data, it comes in.
So essentially, it's about the founder being doing everything about the customer discussions, customer feedback. So you pick up the phone, talk to people, you reach out to them, you understand what worked, what didn't work in terms of the whole messaging as well as the product as well.
Correct.
Were there points of time in your journey where you launched a product, didn't work well, and then
Absolutely. So we launched a PCOS product and we didn't approach the marketing well enough and it completely bombed. Then there was another story where we launched a weight loss product. We thought it was amazing because weight loss is a big problem. We read the Facebook comments and it said weight gain is what we want, not weight loss. And so our audience was saying that while in your metros, weight loss is a problem, in our sections of consumers, weight gain is a problem. We launched weight gain and it did 4x the sales of weight loss.
Very interesting.
I see some questions as well. Do we want to take those?
Sure. Let's take a couple of questions. Okay, so there's one question from Mr. Pushkar. He asks, like Dr. Vaidya's Minimalist, Oziva, and few other brands, is it best to scale and sell to a larger company or remain as an independent entity?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Honestly, it depends on your situation, circumstance, and what's happening in your business. For us, at the time, it was the right thing. For Minimalist, at the time, we thought it was the right thing. So you'll see both kinds of outcomes. People continuing to stay independent, people scaling to IPO, people running profitable businesses, which are cash flow businesses, people selling to strategics. I think this is what you see in the US as well, and that's coming to India. The great news is that a lot of the strategics are becoming very interested in D2C brands.
Great. So the next one is an interesting one. Has there been better awareness about Ayurveda and its effectiveness today? Has that changed?
Yeah, I think a change in government led to the creation of the Ministry of Ayush. In the last 10 years, there's been a massive change in awareness in relation to Ayurveda. And COVID was a big fillip as well because the government openly said Ashwagandha, the government openly said Ayush Kwat or Kadha. The government openly said Guduchi will help you improve your immunity. So all of those things really helped us.
And a follow-on question is about how do you really train your workforce? This is a very niche healthcare kind of a product. Is there a very different training model that you look at, or different profile to hire people when you have this kind of a customer support team?
Good question. They were healthcare products, right? So we had to undergo a lot of training. Fortunately, we had an in-house doctor who was a very senior Ayurvedic doctor. And so anyone who even came into the customer service team would undergo deep training on all our products and the basics of Ayurveda before they were even allowed to engage with any customers. But we had an in-house team of doctors who did the consultation. So they were the educators.
Correct. So your funnel would be you do your digital marketing, getting customer to also speak to internal consultants.
If they so choose, if they so choose.
Got it. And then you also
have
had
to,
the
but if you
content.
so choose. And when they did speak, they sort of the sale was 30% higher in terms of value.
And for someone to consult, they didn't have to be your customer.
No, no, free.
Okay.
But usually when they consult, they have high intent and they eventually end up buying, right?
Got it. And then you build your content moat so that there's a captive audience and the community being built around. Did you also run any community events at a later point in time with this large community out there across cities?
Not physically, no. We didn't do physically.
Because what I've started seeing is some of the D2C brands today are doing that. They look at community events to create.
So it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And a very interesting question about technology now with AI. Is there a larger impact on the Ayurvedic product? What's connect there?
Maybe knowledge of Ayurveda could increase with AI, but I think there's some things that don't need AI, honestly. I don't know how AI will get into Ayurvedic products, maybe in manufacturing or something, but I'm not so sure, to be honest.
Correct. Let's move back to your journey. So you reached a PMF stage around 2018, right? So did you raise money after that?
2019, we raised our first round.
Okay. And what was the scale of the raise?
We were doing 50 lakhs a month at the time, and we raised 15 crores.
Okay. And that whole fuel, rocket fuel was for marketing?
Yeah. And we took the business 16x.
In a span of?
18 months.
Oh, so your first 18 months were to build a PMF, and then the next 18 months
Correct.
really
two parts of the journey, honestly.
The group. So what were the levers there, right? So early stage is all content, your customer retention, right? Vis-a-vis once you have the, you put your foot on the pedal, what changes for a business?
I think the considerations are different, right? You now know what's selling and you got to figure out how to scale it up versus an early stage business where you don't have PMF, you're thinking, how do I start selling? How do I get revenue, right? So considerations are, different. And I think then you're scaling up the team, you're thinking about more efficiency, you're thinking about more products. So conversation is not, how do I sell? It's now that I'm selling, how do I get better?
How do I sell more? How do I sell more? That's the conversation. And what next? Like the next 18 months later that you had a strategic come in, then with the Happy Goenka.
Yeah, eventually they made an offer to acquire the business and we sold to them.
Okay, now let's talk about if somebody is starting today, what kind of fund should I have? Let's say I'm trying to get into one of the red ocean business, which is on the beauty and care. What kind of money should I need to even get into the business? Like what's minimum?
I think like if you watch Shark Tank as well, you'll see people with a few lakh rupees also starting a business. The great part about online business is incremental. The initial fixed cost is only the capex for your website and a little bit of money for marketing. And then as you get better, sell more, use that cash flow and scale. So you don't need a lot of money.
And should one start with an horizontal outreach to the market through Amazon and others, or should you build from day one, have a clear cut view on?
You have to have a website where you get sales, you shouldn't decide. You should let the customer decide. Sell on both. Sales velocity and ROAS will tell you where the customer wants to buy you.
And at one point in time, would I have the writing on the wall that this isn't working out for me? Like, let's say I start the business today, I put in X amount, I'm trying to market, but I'm not having my bottom line there. I'm getting top line, but there's no bottom line because I'm losing out on CAC, I'm losing out on marketing funds, I'm losing out on commissions to the platforms.
Look, I think it's a question I get a lot. Commission to the platform is usually equal to the additional CAC that you have on your website. And the math eventually works out to the same. So when a lot of people complain they have to pay commissions, yes, you pay commissions, but when you pay commissions, you don't pay for traffic to come there. So eventually it works out to the same.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the quick commerce. Right? While we do e-commerce, while we build a brand, but today the game has slightly changed. At least in the metros, in the top tier cities, top 8 cities, you have the quick commerce coming in. How much of that is a great opening versus a threat?
Threat opening, I don't know. Every business that's in consumer has to have a quick commerce strategy, or else you'll be left behind.
Because when I look at quick commerce, right, it's obviously there's a limited shelf space, so all of us are fighting for that shelf space. So when does one business look at going quick commerce? I mean, you said there has to be a strategy, but what should be the strategy for a very early stage brand?
What should be the what strategy? Sorry, I missed you.
What should be the strategy for an early stage D2C business to do with the quick commerce? Like, at what stage do I say that I want to go quick commerce?
You've got to get enough visibility and enough interest for the quick commerce platforms to list you. That should be the first thing. So sell a lot on Amazon, sell a lot on your website so that customers go and search it on quick commerce. And then eventually you'll get it. I see two more questions. We can take those also before we wrap. How much do you pay for marketing a month as a percentage? Dr. Vaidya's was 30 to 35% of revenue in terms of marketing, but we had a strong gross margin of 75+%. So you're able to do this. And then which is the best web hosting platform? I think for an early stage business in consumer that's doing D2C, Shopify is very plug and play. And so it's a great starting point. Eventually you may move to WordPress, WooCommerce, or a custom build. But initially, just to get started, Shopify is a good starting platform.
Is there a formula? There's one more question. Is there any formula you can suggest for deciding the marketing budget? Is there a thumb of rule?
I can send you, Santosh, a unit economics calculation sheet. Basically, you have to input your sales price, your COGS, giving you your gross margin, your logistics cost, your packaging cost, and your payment gateway cost. That leaves you with an amount that you know you could spend for marketing. And that sheet you can share with the group.
Brilliant. We'll do that. So now in terms of your own program that you run, right? How does one or what's your intake criteria there?
Yeah, look, I think we are looking for businesses that have enthusiasm, excitement, and idea, and have a problem that we can help them solve. So we have a team that does sort of an intro call with everyone before they decide who's relevant and who's not. But usually, like, as long as you have passion and idea and you want to solve problems, we're happy to help you on that journey.
And what's your typical cohort size, duration of cohort?
We used to do 150 actually. I've now reduced the size to 50.
150?
It used to be 150, but I've reduced it to 50 because at 150, I didn't get to understand, I didn't get to know anyone. And that's not fun.
And what's the duration? What's the
8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks.
Got it. And let's understand a bit more. What is that you offer them as part of the course?
We offer them.
Is there a structured cohort?
Completely structured. Yeah. So it's like eight steps to building a D2C brand, starting with why D2C, unit economics, then going into like branding, product selection, creation of a conversion friendly website, marketplace strategy, SEO, influencer marketing and content, supply chain operations, logistics, and then eventually team culture and scale. So we've developed 8 modules and we teach that. And so usually it's all the aspects of a D2C business. We also do a nice thing of like every weekend Q&A. So other than the teaching, you have Q&A every weekend, which is, of
And
course,
is there a
solving
fee to
real
this?
problems.
Is there a fee to this
There
course?
is, there is, there is.
And now looking at the cohort, right? Do you see there's a shift between the tier one versus the tier twos, where the brands are coming from?
I think tier 2 brands will do better than tier 1 brands.
But you see more founders coming in from the hinterlands of the country today?
Nothing as such. There are a lot coming from there. There are a lot coming from tier 1 as well.
There's no significant
Okay.
shift or anything. Okay.
I'll just answer the last question before we wrap. Vandana says, what type of content will get more engagement as per your opinion? I think Vandana, for what I've realized is we had a rule of thumb at Dr. Vaidya's. And that rule of thumb was if you don't share that content on your personal Instagram story, we're not posting it. And so what that means is the content should not just be about a sale, happy Mahashivratri, like just talking about your product. It should be educational value adding to the customer. Like we have hundreds of apps on our phone and we delete apps when we have no use for them. We follow hundreds of Instagram pages. And so unless you're adding value to me, I'm not going to engage with your content or follow you. Right? Is the course you are mentioning even useful for digital marketing agencies? Yes, if you want to learn more about the D2C brands you're working with, then yes, it could be.
Great. We'll probably take one more question. If there's any question that Rhythm, we have it in the email or anywhere. I'm just looking at.
We have covered all.
We've covered everything, right? All right, perfect. Then
Super.
I think
And I wanted to say thank you to you guys for hosting me. I joined AIMA YLC, I think like 4 years back or something. And it's been a fun journey for me to be a part of the community as well. So thank you so much, Santosh, for hosting me, and Rhythm for making me a part of this platform. And yeah, congratulations on all the amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I mean, this is a kind words, and we'd love to expand our community, and there'll be more D2C founders will come into your course from this journey as well. Look forward to having you contribute and give back to the community here as well. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.